host for today's show. I'm a midterm rental operator for those who's new to the show. I have a temp housing company working directly with corporate companies housing their employees or on the insurance side, displaced families. And I get to coach alongside my bud Jesse inside AirVenture Academy, where we help investors improve their MTR strategy. If it's your first time here, guys, here's how we move around here. Three things. Number one, show up. Whether it's live or recorded, you have access to this. Show up for yourself, be present, stay locked in, and get ready to apply. Take action on what we teach you, what we share with you guys. Number two, share the show. We put time aside for you guys, for the public, to help you guys out because we know there's a lot of operators out there who's still spinning their wheels or maybe feeling a slowdown in their process. So share this show because someone in your circle might need it too. And number three, please always take action instantly. Take action on the things you've learned or nothing's going to change. We're just consuming entertainment and that'd be it, right? And we'll never find results. So that's the standard. That's the expectation. That's the community. Now let's get into it. So today's topic is the midterm rental market too saturated? That's a common question. That's either that or I get done. What's a good market for midterm rentals? All right. And that's a loaded question right there because it really depends on the operator, right? It depends on what your strategy is, your target client, your experience level. It's not just so much the actual home, like the property, like what type. Do I need two bedrooms? Do I need 3 bedrooms? All that changes depending on the market and on your target client. But we'll dive into it. We'll cover if the midterm rental market is too saturated. Probably some of you guys are seeing in your own market more listings, right? I remember when I first started, I didn't have too many competitions around me. This was during the Airbnb bubble, right? 2020 era. That's when almost anyone could get away with putting up a listing on Furnish Finder, Airbnb, and they don't really have to do too much. Well, hate to burst your bubble, but that bubble has popped, right? So we'll break it down today to identify if the market is too saturated for midterm rentals. One thing is for sure, it's not, but we'll break that down for you guys. The market isn't dying. If anything, it is improving, it's growing. So today we'll break down 4 areas, 4 parts. What is saturation? Signs in your market that it's shifting. Why this is actually a good thing, right? Positive things. You got to find the positive in the negative. And sometimes when you think it's negative and you're looking through the wrong lenses, right? Just get realigned from someone who's been doing it a bit longer, and you'll realize that there's still opportunities. And finally, we'll give you some tips in the end, right? Things you guys could apply, take action on. So let's jump right into it and define it. Sorry, my eyes super itchy right now, allergies. Let's define it. What is saturation? I mean, I think that one's an easy one. We could Google it, right? Saturation is basically when too many people is doing the same thing. Too many homes in your neighborhood, in your market. Maybe they all look the same. And there's no real, there's no edge. There's no value, right? There's no separator. Everyone looks the same. It's almost like that Spider-Man meme where everyone's pointing, all the Spider-Mans are pointing at each other, right? They all look alike. Well, in MTR, what looks like saturation would be hosts copying other hosts. Now, you know, there's nothing wrong with copying someone else's strategy or their design, maybe their listing description, but it has to make sense, right? Literally copy and pasting someone's strategy or even their description, applying it to yours, that's not going to work. You're going to want to see what is the most common type of client and who is that specific comp, who are they marketing to, right? Is it just specifically travel nurses? Maybe you've seen a couple homes around you that have a couple units that are catering to the medical industry, right? So looking at other people's property and getting an idea and then just 2.0ing it so it could fit your property, absolutely. But copy and paste literally, come on, guys. And I've seen that, so don't be surprised. But that's what it looks like when you see a lot of homes starting to look the same, the design, even the furniture, professional photos. Maybe everyone's chasing the same type of industry or client. Insurance, that's a big one, right? Everyone wants to get into the corporate insurance side and house displaced families. And now we're starting to hear the government contracts, which my bud Dylan, that's what he's gearing towards. And shout out to Dylan. He locked in a government contract last week. So congrats to that one. That's a big deal because I feel like that's the next huge move for MTR. But other things that I would say that looks like saturation in your market would be pricing wars. Maybe you see folks lowering their prices, tremendously compared to what they had it listed, 3 months ago, a quarter ago, right? Listings are just being vacant. So if you're using Price Labs or any data tools out there, AirDNA, they're all great. Mashvisor is another one. You could get those types of data to see how long homes are sitting vacant, right? Versus just looking on Airbnb or Furnish Finder. But just because you see a lot of homes popping up with a similar design, that doesn't always mean the game is over, right? Yes, you start feeling that saturation feeling, but truthfully, it just means that the game has changed, that we need to 2.0 our strategy. There's this guy, Andy Frisella. He's a boss CEO, and I'd say he's probably one of the top dogs of all CEOs. And he mentions this all the time, throughout his business journey, he's always 2.0ing his strategy. What got us here today won't get us to the next level, right? We could use some of that experience, but we're gonna have to get creative to get to the next level. So even if there's a saturation, there's a way to separate yourself from everyone else. So I wouldn't say the market is crashing or anything like that on MTR. I'd say it's evolving. Now, if you're a sitting duck and you're hoping for the best, you're still running that 2020 strategy of just listing it on Airbnb, then yeah, you're gonna lose, no doubt. Operators in the MTR space that are clearly leading are leveraging the B2B strategy, which is what Jesse talks about a lot. And I'd say it would be the main separator, right? Because everyone could get professional photos, right? Everyone can get a designer if they don't have the design touch. That's the easy part. We could look at the market and see what everyone else is doing, right? See if we could put a little twist. So that's 2020 old strategy. A lot of folks are starting to miss out on systems, skills in the business. Some folks are still operating by themselves, right? And that could be another bottleneck into your business on getting bookings or even scaling. So this is absolutely filter season, right? Only the real ones who apply, who educate themselves, who seeks new strategies, those are the ones who's going to survive. So let's move into signs that you might be feeling it, right? You might be feeling you have that saturated market. Your own bookings probably slowed down, right? If you're not tracking your bookings, your revenue, there's a lot of things to track in business, your KPIs. You wouldn't really be able to identify if it slowed down compared to last year, right? So you could go on Airbnb and look at your earnings, look at your occupancy rate, and if you have Airbnb, if you're not tracking your data, your KPIs like on a spreadsheet or anything like that, you could make that comparison and really see if there's a slowdown, right? Maybe I mentioned this earlier, you're seeing more listings go up on Furnish Finder, on all the OTAs like Airbnb. That could be a sign maybe why you're feeling like, oh shoot, there's competition. There's another one. Oh, another one. Right? Another competition down the street launched a unit, right? So that could be a reason. Pricing, right? Prices might not be as high as they were, or you might be in a seasonal period and you don't realize that it's like this every season, depending on what market you're in. So it could be a lot of factors why you might be filling it, and there might be some stones that are unturned, right? And maybe you're just relying on, like I said, OTAs. That's not going to work in the furnished rental. It's STR or MTR. If you're just solely relying on Airbnb to bring you leads, bring you renters, clients, you're going to have a hard time. Straight up, you're going to have a hard time. And if that's like and number one, we've all experienced this, right? Like where our strategy didn't get to where it's at just because we woke up one day and decided. No, because there's pain points, right? There is a slowdown, from our experience, and we got creative in thinking, how can we improve this, right? B2B strategy, like in any other business, that's an extremely powerful tool, business to business, to keep, to hedge against vacancy. That's one right there. But reminder, you're not in a broken market. You're probably just using old strategies, right? You don't know what you don't know. So that's fair. Let's see. So tips. All right. Tips on what operators can do. All right. So there's a difference between hosting and operating. And I'm just going to take a quick side quest. I've heard too many folks in the co-hosting space, clients getting picked up, furnished rentals. Usually it's doctors that are clients. They're busy. They can't operate their furnished rental, so they get a co-host. And that co-host will typically market MTR, that they get corporate clients, corporate contracts. However, they have no experience or book of business, or don't have the skill to do the outreach, right? To build those relationships. Maybe they don't have relationships. So a lot of folks who are getting co-hosting services, I think, are blindly being misled, right? So I would, tell these clients, I'd say, well, if you're looking for a co-host, you got to ask them, what is their specific way of marketing the property outside of just listing it on Airbnb? Because if you're just listing it on Airbnb and you're doing guest communications, and I don't think 25% co-hosting fees make sense, because you get that for a way lower rate. Now, if you're operating the business, if you're looking for leads, outbound calls, cold leads, right, nurturing previous clients, and that's where you're really running the system of a real business. Let's see. What else? Booking directly with relocation specialists, right? That's on the insurance side. There's relocation specialists in other industry as well. Like Princess Cruises is one. They have a whole department of that. That's a freebie for you guys. Adjusters. What else? HR folks, right? Case managers. If we're in the medical field, if that's what we're heading towards. Travel nurses, traveling doctors, all that. There's just another reminder. It's not just travel nurses. There's traveling radiologists, phlebotomists, lab techs. So think outside the box when you hear renting out to travel nurses. There's more than just travel nurses. So that could be a small little thing that most folks look over, right? Like you might be in Hospital Central, but you just keep asking about travel nurses, or when you're doing the outreach and you're not trying to serve other medical professionals. Maybe you need to improve your systems, your tools, right? Maybe it's time for a CRM. Maybe it's time for a new PMS system, right? The key here for systems is speed to lead, because especially if you got, competition in your market now, they're growing, you're gonna need speed to lead. It's the first one to respond, the first one to show attentiveness, first one to be of service. That's a super key. Before it was just list our property and we don't got to do anything. People will rent our place. But now we got to apply the system. So maybe systems and tools could be an issue in your whole MTR portfolio. And building your business as a service, building it around as a service-based business, not just hey, stay in my property. It's brand new furniture, right? We have a pool table and a swimming pool and neon lights. It's not just that. When we're doing the B2B, which is one of the strongest tools in midterm rentals, I'll say for the fifth time. If I said it 5 times, I don't know, we need a counter. But yeah, it's super key, that B2B. And identifying the your target clients. I feel like that's another thing folks miss, right? They just kind of shoot whatever and see whatever sticks, right? So market analysis is super key, and it'll help you pivot too, right? If we were running the old strategy, we do a deep market analysis, create a list, right, of our target clients that we can serve. Maybe you're in a tech town, maybe you're in hospital central, maybe there's 3 hospitals within your radius, right? Maybe there's a new development, right? Lots of construction. You go with construction crews. It's another one. So when folks ask, what market is good for MTR, I think, almost any market is, if you have a solid, clear market analysis and you create that target, that list that you're going to do your outreach to, so you can potentially serve them on the B2B side. Why is B2B, real quick, so important, or why do I keep talking about B2B? Is number one, you're saving more on fees, right? When there's a middleman, other OTAs, we're saving on fees, meaning more money in our client, the guest's pocket, saving them, right? Saving the company, and more money in our pocket. That's one big reason why folks decide to go to B2B. Another thing, if these OTAs decide to flip the switch and turn off their lights, a lot of folks, and we saw that already with regulations, right? A lot of folks don't know how to operate without the help of Airbnb. So what happens if you have 3 units? All of a sudden your market just gets regulated, right? So, and we've helped a lot of folks come into our program for that specific problem, where they're shifting gears because of the market, or maybe even they're just changing from LTR, now they want to do MTR because they want to see bigger margins, right? Point is, if the bubble of even 2017, 2019, 2020, that was all about speed and professional photos, I'd say, design, maybe wallpaper, whoever could catch the marketing side. But that was just speed, and whoever could do it first, whoever could launch the unit the fastest, was essentially own the block. But 2025, 2026, and moving forward, it's not just going to be about your listing and the title of your listing. It's going to be about skill. It's going to be about service. It's going to be about systems. It's going to be about, what's this, number 7? B2B. But yeah, so guys, most likely, yes, your market probably is saturated or starting to build more competition within your neighborhood. But I can almost guarantee that the folks in your neighborhood isn't doing the B2B strategy and doing that extra push to separate themselves to get these corporate contracts. Now, why is corporate contracts so important? Well, for one reason, we're renting to ideal clients, right? It's not just Joe Schmo off the street where we're worried about squatting, right? That's a big fear us operators have, landlords have, is squatters. Another reason why folks would go straight to that is, I mentioned this earlier already, is skipping out on extra fees, obviously, and continued business, right? Because when you work with a client directly, like, it's not just a click of a button where you made it so easy that they possibly may forget about you. That engagement is super important, right? When you're talking to the HR person or the foreman of the construction crew, right? Or the case manager for, the nurses. It's very important that you guys have that engagement, that you build that rapport, you have that engagement, and you nurture that relationship, because it's not just about them renting your property once, but it's them coming back again, maybe 6 months down the line, 3 months down the line, all right? It's maybe having them talk about your company, talk about our company, right? How well we serve them. Now there's free marketing. So nurturing that B2B strategy is extremely key. So let's move on to what you guys probably should do. 4 things. Here's the playbook. Refocus your niche. Maybe we're just casting a wide net, nothing's working. Maybe same thing on the design, maybe same thing on our services in the property, like the amenities. So think about maybe targeting insurance, relocation, right? Maybe targeting new companies, new developments, right? If you're in that type of business, and just focus on that, right? Do the outreach, right? See how you can tailor your property, your home, as service to that industry, right? Like, why does it make sense for a construction crew to stay at your property, right? Those are some questions we can ask ourselves. Like, okay, I see there's a lot of new development. I went to City Hall and I see that this project is gonna go on for 6 years. That's great. Expansion of the town, of the city. And you just start pulling on that yarn. You start asking yourself, how can I position my home that's 2 miles, 5 miles away from the project, right? The new development. How can I position my home to be of service for this construction crew, for example, right? Number one of them, make sure you have parking, right? Work trucks. If you're gonna target construction crews, we need work trucks. Construction crews for sure, at least 3-bedroom. That's no doubt. But yeah, so refocus your niche, who you're gonna go after, and start, you have to be obsessed. You have to be obsessed with your business, with what you're doing, and the industry you're targeting. Know about that industry. What are their needs? What are their pain points? And the best way to figure that out, outside of just doing the regular Google search, going on LinkedIn, absolutely, that's like phase 1, do that, due diligence, but picking up the phone. Too many folks are too afraid to pick up the phone, make that cold call. And I get it, it's uncomfortable. I mean, if you guys saw my video when I first started, I've gotten hung up. I have the recording where I've gotten hung up, and then I'm recording myself because I'm practicing and studying, and you could see the defeat in my face. Like literally, like, I just want to quit, right? But not believing in that, pausing and looking at the work that I did and seeing what adjustments I need to make, right? Getting the help, getting the right guidance. I mean, me and Jesse was talking earlier today, actually, and he was saying like, he's like, man, how do you know all these things? Or I was like, bro, I learned this from you, right? So I got the help that I needed, right? In the beginning, you feel that overconfidence, like, oh, I could do this. But there is a time in this journey where you need the help. You need the guidance. So find an accountability buddy, maybe a partner, your opposite, right? A visionary and integrator in a business is super key. It's another topic for another day. Or find help, find a community, find a coach, right? I mean, you guys are here today and you're getting the help from us, and that's what we're here for. But even though you're getting that help, even though you're watching, the YouTube and reading the books, you have to apply, right? That's why I feel like having a coach will hold you accountable and make sure you are executing. Because life hits us. We get busy and then we forget that, we had to do the critical task. Number 2 is be familiar with your market. That's like that's kind of tied in with refocusing your niche. But here's what I would do. Go on Google right now, right? Google Maps, and identify a couple hospitals, businesses, factories, right? And that's your list. That's like where you could start off. Like, okay, where can I go from here, right? If you're gonna target insurance, get familiar, like what is the common home, the type of claims that happens around this area, right? We know in California, coming up in September, October, November, that's like fire season because of the wind, right? So get familiar with your market. So we know like for our units in California, when it comes to fire season, that we're not, if we're running hybrid on the property, we're not accepting short-term bookings because we know we're going to get some needs in that area. So find the businesses, find the hospitals, find the factories, and then just start making that list of folks, right? Upgrade your offer. That's another thing. Maybe your offer needs to change. Are you competitive, right? Do you have flexible stays? A big one is your unit pet friendly, right? There has to be at least more than 50% of people in America that has pets, cats or dogs, right? So imagine that. If you say no to pets, you're essentially cutting out half of your bucket of potential clients, right? Now, if you have your own personal reasons for pets, allergies, or what have you, then, obviously I get that. When I first started, I said no pets because I read all the horror stories, and on Bigger Pockets and the forums, pets destroying sofas and cats urinating on laminate on hardwood floors, right? And that's a nightmare. But I strongly believe that if you have the right systems in place, if you have insurance, if you have extra emergency funds put aside, right? Knowing that there is a high potential, you will have to use it, spend it. If you are tracking properly, documenting all your furniture, the cost, the receipt, all that, I really don't see a reason why you shouldn't be serving pets, unless it's a personal thing. Maybe you're allergic, or maybe your cleaning team is allergic, but maybe you need to readjust that, right? Allergy, that's a huge deal. Like when I have a guest come in, or before they come in actually, we'll ask them, if there's do they have any known allergies? So we can make sure we can prepare the property specifically for them, whether it's cleaning. There's some folks that are allergic to certain types of fragrances, cleaning supplies, pets, dander, obviously. So asking that in the beginning will help you if you're against the pet stays. I don't want to stay too long on this topic. Point is, if you could have pets in your property, absolutely do it. And have a fast response. I think I mentioned this earlier. Speed to lead is key, right? You get that inquiry on Furnish Finder, even if it's an unmatched lead. Maybe we should save that for next midterm Monday, but you get an inquiry, you need to be responding to that right away, because guess what? They're on a platform where you don't respond, they could just scroll and look for another unit, right? That's why I don't really like we advise this for our students to never give your listing link to a potential client, like an insurance adjuster or anything like that, because what are you doing there? You're just allowing them to look at your competition, right? So you could potentially lose on that. So fast responses is going to be super key, and tools could help you with that, right? That's part of systems and tools. There's automated responses. Airbnb has that as well, where it's automated responses. You can even plug in a questionnaire in there to keep engagement, right? And I'd say the fourth one is build a pipeline, right? You want to lead. You don't want to just wait for instructions. You don't want to, you have to go out and get it. Nothing's going to be handed to you. That bubble has popped. A lot of folks are having a hard time just hoping for the best. But we're running a business here, right? And you guys want to see that 2.5, 2x, 3x margins, right, versus LTR rates, then you have to do the work. We all knew this, that, setting and forgetting wasn't going to last, right? People will catch on. And that's probably another side quest. That's probably another reason why Airbnb has such a bad name to, other landlords or operators, especially if you're trying to arbitrage, because of the news, right? During that bubble, young teenagers, knuckleheads saw how easy it was. They were using grandma's furniture with no systems and no guest communication, and people were breaking rules, throwing parties. So it's not really that the landlord was throwing the parties. It was just the landlord was negligent, right? Or the operator was negligent. right? And then that's how the Airbnb got a bad rap, because too many folks were having parties and damaging units, but they didn't have systems in place. So that would be the main issue here. So back to it, lead the game by building a pipeline. Right? Don't wait for bookings. Do the outreach, nurture those relationships, follow up on the clients you're reaching out to. Remember, guys, it's not always about, how many, bedrooms is the property? Is the property MTRable like that? It's not always going to fall down to that. There's a lot of other factors. So I always say market analysis, it's a super key, and it's a skill that you could transfer into other businesses, if I could speak properly, businesses as well, right? Market analysis, because if you know how to analyze a market the right way with the right MTR lenses, then you could have a co-hosting company, right? And you could have that discussion, that conversation with a potential client, why it makes sense, right? To get a co-host and why you would operate successfully, right? Or if you have, like me, a corporate housing business, a temporary housing business, you got to be familiar with your market. We're not just throwing arbitrary numbers, right? Because we heard, someone else say, oh, I made $7,000 in cash flow, which is like crazy. It's super rare. It's happened. There's a one leader in our community. Very proud of this guy, but he made that happen. To almost 3 months into our program, he made that happen, got his first contract, and got a $7,000 margin, which was the biggest margin that I've seen in cash flow in MTR. So I was shocked. I was blown away, and he's definitely leading. He's leading the way right now. So big shout out to my dog, Ruben. What up, dog? But yeah, so let's get into it. Guys, drop your questions. We'll save it for Q&A. We'll have a Q&A session. DM me or hit up info@airventureacademy.com, or book a call with me. Or one of our reps will help out. Usually it's going to be me. I like to take the calls because I do coach in the program, meaning I can determine if we would be able to help you, right? Not everyone. We don't let everyone just in the program. We want to be sure that we can help you win and not just enroll you, right? So book a call with me. It's just a 10-minute call, and then we could see how we could potentially help you and diagnose what's going on with your property or your market. So before we close, guys, remember, it's not the end. I know you're probably panicking. Maybe you've been vacant for a couple days, maybe a month now, right? That's just a sign saying that you need to improve something, right? One of the fours that I mentioned above, and I'm sure it's the B2B. B2B usually saves folks from vacancy and all that. But it's not the end. It's definitely the beginning of the next level. Remember, saturation, it's just a filter. You just got to know how to operate this MTR strategy the right way, the best way, the proper way, the most efficient and effective way. I could keep going. Alrighty, guys. But if you guys like this show, please, please, please share this show. This will help us out a lot. And, tons of respect for showing up today, even if you're catching up on the recorded version of this. But again, take action, right? Take action on this. And if you need the help, book a call with us. DM us, write your questions down, and maybe your questions will be chosen for our live show in 2 weeks, right? We do Q&A, open floor kind of, right? We'll let folks get in on us live, ask some questions. But DM me, hit the info@airventureacademy.com. If it's a long message, you could email us there or just book that call. You can find the link on airventureacademy.com. I'm Dun De La Cruz, y'all. Thank you for stopping by. I'll catch you next week. Peace.